Hi, I'm Ade. A recent topic of discussion I had with several folk was orbs. The love and hate around them, shout out to Troy and his vivid analogies, and what the game might look like without them. This video will expand on that in 4 parts. Disclaimer, scrub mentality, hints, and balancing. This is not a guide for orbs, although I will touch on a few hints. Plus, you can check out my weapons training guide on Steam for more on that, and perhaps part of this video will end up there at some point. As usual, if even one person finds this helpful, then it was worth it. This is not an ode either. I'm not the Orb Lovers Guild spokesperson. My favorite weapon is shotgun. To those not familiar with Serlin's Play to Win, which was already recommended a long time ago on HL2DMU, do pick it up. It's free on the serlin.net website. Pretty light read. The tangent here is the scrub mentality and the self-imposed crutches. This is basically anything a player refuses to accept about a game in order to win. Anything that's considered too strong or taboo, like the noob tube in our game. Like camping in any FPS game. Strong, cheap, dirty, annoying to die to cause I don't know counter or how to win with it myself, are attributes given to weapons, techniques, and legitimate strats thrown in the no-no basket.
Orbs and slam.
Lasers here.
Only thing you don't hear are rocket launch.
It doesn't have one.
Just because.
They're complaining.
When I was learning about HL2DM and a lot of its bugs, and I was so excited to try them in game every evening, funnily enough, exploits was where I drew the line. This book helped me cross a big threshold and accept B-Hop for starters. Then I gradually accepted Altfire, Spray, and RPG. Orbs are on par with RPG on a per-map basis. They can be as strong and as fun, and both require skill. You are terribly missing out if you think otherwise, and I hope one day you will change your mind. But it's not my job to convince players. There's books and podcasts for that. Necessity is the mother of invention, plus the game by itself should be convincing enough with its high skill ceiling and incommensurable fun the deeper you dive into it. Before getting back to orbs, I will point out a small common thread this video and the first shot video have, and possible future videos might have, the dual perspective. Everything in this game and heck in life can be looked at from 2 perspectives, and orbs or situations involving orbs are no exception. Back to orbs, the hints part. 1. There's a bit of educational content in a lot, if not all, my videos if people look carefully. I just don't point it out. Example, orbs can be used as your own cover fire. This is shown in my recent vid where I suicide at 5 HP to give my teammate the RPG with full ammo. The vid begins with me throwing a seemingly random orb in Overwatch house ground floor. I'm saying, this is my bubble, I'm 5 HP, nobody follow me. Counter-Strike players should understand and appreciate this utility aspect. 2. If player X calls orbs 1 weapon out of 14, both random and OP, that's an oxymoron. Perhaps random in their hands and OP in the hands of the enemy, but randomness is unreliable and not an OP tool or strat. Even in games like poker, which combines both strat and chance, year after year specific players will come out on top due to them employing strategies with higher percentage of winning. Do not confuse variance with randomness. Randomness in video games is absolutely normal. HL2DM checks out with spray patterns and spawns, for instance. Orbs are not random, but they do contain variance. Player X might get random orb results. That is, if they choose to ignore hints like aim for an easier target first so the tracking device gets a lot stronger towards subsequent targets. 3. Those that played pool might have an easier time understanding the schematic I added in my weapons guide for ways to calculate angles. It's pure math. And the way you calculate angles on how to get the enemy, that enemy in turn can calculate angles for how to catch them. Hence the dual perspective. 4. Orbs can be used as wallhack. If an orb changes direction more than anticipated, it indicates enemy presence. If enemy makes G-gun noise or even catches my orb, enemy location updates with more accuracy. And if they do not immediately release the orb, I now have a walking wall hack. But hacks come in packs for a reason. It's not enough to know where the enemy is or will be if I don't have the proper tools to get them, because they're so much stronger than me. Or if I'm dead anyway.
One front
Watch out.
back coming for me back, man. Yeah, he's there. He's back, man.
Orb as wall hack is just a tool in the belt, but it's a neat feature nonetheless, which makes them fun and strong in a wide skill set. Simply throwing one out there at random though is a waste of resource or might even get you killed. How? Enemy can return it, or it can hit a nearby exploding barrel or set a prop in motion and cause you to suicide. Therefore a mistake usually. Unless you do it with at least the purpose of experimenting with new angles. And now the part where I go, but orbs are already balanced. Number 1. The orb's tracking device also acts as an aimbot for the player trying to catch it. All they have to do is see or gauge the wall or surface you're about to use. They just aim towards that wall with the reversed angle calculation as mentioned previously. They can also dodge it after its tracking device reset on the latest surface.
This game, he's all orbs.
He's always orbs, relax. Let's catch him.
Your orbs home more than normal, I swear.
Number 2, just catch them. The moment the orb is caught, everything gets turned around. The oppressor is now the potential victim. If orbs disintegrated upon G-Gun touch, the orb catcher having G-Gun out in anticipation would not be a threat to the orb thrower. But as it stands, the orb thrower has to think twice if it's worth the risk, and they have to also come up with a clever angle or play. Number 3, orbs by themselves are useless. They're just ammo or pickup. You might die on the way to the air too. You might die on the way to the orb pickup. On the way to a fight, you might forget you had either in your arsenal, since this game does not display full inventory, only currently equipped weapon and ammo besides health and armor. Whether intentional or poor design, this game trait balances orbs. And SMG nades while we're at it. Daily I spectate live matches and see players dying with alt-fire in their inventory. Sometimes it's because they got one-shot or outplayed, sure, but sometimes it's because they folded a full house. And only they can answer, was it an ego play, an honor play, or did they forget their inventory? They sent their general out before the troops. Inventory tracking is a skill. Number 4. On maps with one AR2, the orbs are balanced because it's easy to control one weapon rather than every alt-fire pickup. You don't have to like it or use it to control it, by the way. Much easier to control one AR2 than 2 mags on lockdown versus mag lovers, for instance. That's why having 2 AR2s and up is better for TDM. Number 5. Orbs are weak in open areas and super wide open maps. Try to avoid them by picking your home map wisely. Since orbs are strong in close quarters and rooms, on maps like Lockdown, if you are trapped in a room, best bet is to walk or run backwards to nearest exit while trying to catch incoming orb. Do not sit in corner, that only works sometimes. The 2 perspectives here are position yourself in wider area rather than in small room when you know enemy has orbs, versus punish with orbs when enemy is in small room. The reason I keep mentioning the Lockdown map is because orbs are stronger than RPG there, since it's fully enclosed and on only 2 levels, plus it's a super old and well-known map, and well, a good number of players have strong opinions about it. Number 6. Orbs have a deadly charge-up time. I sometimes die if I want to do a fast orb instead of staying in a safe spot and catching it in my G-Gun before revealing myself to release it, or if I try fast orbing a wall from a spot I falsely believe is safe. The charge-up time is also noisy, and even though enemy can't see me, they still have time to take G-Gun out and point at the obvious wall I'm going to use. And they will try to catch and release it right back to me, and it's basically my death if I don't counter with a catch. We are now trying to do not so obvious direct walls between us and the enemy as counter, because the catch counter is no longer as effective. Small parenthesis. Amazingly, the game is not stale in regards to calculating how many walls it's safe to use before firing the orb. And there is a specific point in LD where an angle or counter advanced 3 times over more than a decade, even though people say this map is solved. At first it was, okay, I am effed, I can't just walk up to the player, direct orb can't hit them since they are behind railing, plus they will shoot my feet. How do I get a kill? The first options were circling back and alt-firing top hall, or nade rush, hugging the wall on the right, or holding an orb and shooting it outside and possibly up to the ceiling, because charge up time is death when done right in front of the enemy while walking in a straight line. A primed orb is better. Still sucky. Second option over the years was shoot floor first, which will bounce up to the ceiling then down to the player. Angle wonky, feet might still show, it was our best bet for a long time. The third option, while there have been many attempts, I believe Nia was the first to perfect it, either late 2023 or early 2024. Please don't make me find the demo. Shoot ceiling inside this area which bounces off the floor, same area which bounces off the ceiling, outside then onto the enemy if done right. Otherwise it ends up bouncing all around you. Number 7. Orbs can set props in motion which can cause you to suicide. Number 8. You kill someone with orb, you don't get their weapon. You kill someone with any other weapon, you get the weapon they drop. This penalty indicates balance. Number 9. If orbs were to be removed, there would be a lot of camping. Think player that camps even when losing times 100. Because it would be so much harder to smoke enemy out, or check where enemy is. We would have to ask Valve immediately to put in footsteps. Or we would need footsteps plugin or code on all servers instead. And I'm sure there are other ways this would become unbalanced. I'll add one more without going too deep or too controversial, hopefully. Number 10, or part 2 of if orbs were to be removed. Since orbs are control points just as important as RPG and supercharger, removing them would be the same as saying let's remove any of those. The power struggles would look way different, lopsided and unbalanced, and the maps would need to be redone. For one reason, their layout was built with a specific purpose, and the orbs were carefully placed in specific spots throughout the map as well. Some maps are built for certain weapons to shine, whether it's overall or by sections. For example, the upper levels of Cavern's main are meant for snipe weapons, crossbow and mag, with adequate weapon placement to boot. If a map has more rooms, corridors, twists and turns, and wide open areas or opportunities for long range, then orb and shotgun are meant to be used more than mag, since there are fewer angles for mag. Can you guess the map modification I'm hinting at? Secondly, maps would need to be redone or their control indexes would definitely drop to an alarming KBH level. TDM and DM maps would blur together since absence or presence of an AR2 or RPG can dictate number of players. Some current examples of maps that achieved 3v3 status are Standard Lost Village by means of 3 AR2s and Zeta or Powerhouse by sheer size. Weapons will debatably have a bigger say in this than size. Size will at most be inversely proportionate to total score. That's why more spacious maps where AR2 is still viable, so not Overwatch, like Caverns and Atrium still work for 1v1. They only have one AR2. Sure, you can play LD as 2v2, but LDR6 is the correct TDM version. If only they would revert the RPG event. Otherwise, non-connoisseurs can be exploited if they don't organize a full-forced tandem exit out of Bath. AR2 and orb stashes in general would have to be replaced with something just as strong, or maps would need a total rehaul. Maps plural. And boy do we have countless maps in this dying game. The same spiraling logic can be applied to modifying orbs instead of removing them. In this part we don't even have to theorize. There is a server out there that did modify orbs, along with other weapons, but correct me if I'm wrong, no one plays on it. Or rather, the same 2 people play on it, but mostly for mag training or jump training and sometimes with a password on. Case closed. Number 11. NA or all regions should play with friendly fire on.
Oh my god!
Number 12. ESP feature is not healthy for the game. Off topic, it discourages people from communicating, and here communication means more than just talking and giving callouts. On topic, it can definitely mean spam galore where ally isn't. Game wasn't built with ESP in mind. If you introduce ESP, you would need an entire balance team to rework the game around this feature. And it's a slippery slope from there on for something that was not needed to begin with. TDM score fix is the only thing that is absolutely needed. Final thoughts. The ultimate level of DM and fun is achieved when both players or teams are free of all crutches and play the map for its intended power struggle, namely Orb versus RPG. It does not get any deadlier and more matched than this.